Hi, this is Trev and welcome to my blog. I'm absolutely frozen. I'm outside. I thought I'd just shoot this quick video so I've got something to put on this week. I've got to do it outside because I don't want any sparks going anywhere near the paintwork on my van, and that's the only place I would have a little bit of space to be able to do some welding. So I'm going to do it outside, so I'm just sort of thawing my hand out at the moment against the fire. So yeah, it's the R-tech 180 amp, the little diddy little MIG welder, which I'm really pleased with because it takes up hardly any space. So I've got some fairly thickish stuff to weld up. I bought myself some angle iron. I'm making myself a battery retainer for the van. This is for the big leisure battery that I'm going to fit in there to run the coffee machine. So it's a fairly large battery, so it needs to be made out of something pretty heavy, and this is going to be well and truly well bolted to the inside of the van so that it can't break free and cause untold damage if we were to have a crash. Good, perish the thought, eh? So yeah, so what I'll do, I mean, this is just really a first impressions of welding with a welder because I haven't really used it yet, and I thought I'd just show you what it does and give you my first impressions, see what I think about it, see if there's anything much different about it from other welders I've used in the past, like my old welder now, which resides at Race and Restoration. So let's go and do some welding. So more or less straight out of the box, I started welding. Just turned the gas on, plugged it into the mains, power set to just under halfway, and pretty much instantly was producing pretty good quality weld. Because it's thick stuff, didn't have to be too specific about my power settings. Find that on thicker materials you've got quite a wide range of power settings you could use to make quite an adequate weld. The other thing that somebody will probably pick me up on here is that I'm using a handheld visor. This is an old trait of mine that I can't seem to shake. Although I've got auto darkening helmets, I do prefer still to use a handheld visor when I'm MIG welding. When I'm TIG welding, of course, I need both hands free, so I have to use an auto darkening helmet there. The only other thing that caught me out a little bit, because I'm not really used to welding outside. I mean, I've probably only done it a handful of times the whole time that I've been welding. I've been quite fortunate to always be inside of a workshop, and I really experienced what a lot of people have told me about with MIG welding outside, and that's with the wind issue blowing away the shielding gas. And I really did experience it the day I was welding this up, because it was very windy, and I had a couple of times a gust come along and blow it so hard that it was almost like welding with the gas turned off. Fortunately, this only happened for a split second here and there, but I really got now what people are talking about when they tell me about this situation. Another quite nice feature of this welder is that it displays the amps that are being drawn. I'll talk more about this in an upcoming episode. I also made this bracket today. This is to hold the high pressure water pump that feeds the coffee machine. It's pumped up to higher pressure than mains pressure, and this is used to express the hot water through the filter holder as you know, like an espresso machine. So that's what this holds. And this was the first thing I welded. I sort of guessed at the power. I just wound it up to just under halfway, and yeah, I just started welding straight away. The only thing I had to do is just turn the welding wire speed up slightly, and made these pretty satisfactory looking welds, I would have said. I mean, they're not going to win any beauty contests, are they? But you know that it's pretty much welded together pretty well when you see those kinds of welds. At the other side, I've actually got penetration coming out the other side. I'd like to have done it a little bit higher amperage, but because we're only looking at sort of 2mm thickness material there, that's like a 3mm piece of angle. What I didn't want it to do was to kind of start buckling and folding itself around that angle line, so I was a little bit cautious not to have it wound up too high. I turned it up a little bit more for the rest of the battery bracket that I made, so I just wound it up a little bit more, and yeah, it's come out quite well. Quite happy with that, really. I do like sort of fabricating things like this because you haven't got to be quite so concerned with the heat distortion. You can just wind plenty of power in, as long as you know you're getting good penetration. The welder does the rest because it's just MIG welding. It's just point and shoot, isn't it? As long as you know that you're getting good penetration, then it's quite easy, really. So there we go, I got it mocked up with the battery sat on there. It fits an absolute treat. There's no movement in anything, and I've put some 10mm threaded bar. I would have just used M8, but I couldn't find any. That's all I had led around. I've got 12 bolts that anchor it to the side of the van, and I've got a couple in the floor as well. Those are really just to take the weight off this bracket, so it's not constantly bouncing and flexing that inner wing, but I think that'll probably be strong enough to hold it there anyway. I've also made these extensions up and drilled a couple of holes through there. I'm going to attach some ply to that, and that plywood's going to stick out a little bit more that side. I'll probably bond it that side between the ply and the inner with some screen bond or something, and I'm going to mount the inverter there because I've got to have an inverter to power it up to 230 volts. So turn 12 volts into 230 volts, which will run the grinder and the coffee machine. The coffee machine, of course, is run off LPG as well, which takes the you know, the element issue out of it, so you haven't got to have all those extra 3 kilowatts to run the element. And this side, I'm going to have a flow jet pump. The flow jet pump will take the water out of the water tank and push it through the water purifier, cleaner, calcium treatment unit it's also called. So it takes all the calcium out of the water so it doesn't ferret the coffee machine, also makes it taste nicer. And then once it goes through there, then as I was saying, the high pressure pump then pumps it up to the coffee machine and pumps it right up to high pressures. I have just uploaded a conclusion video to the battery tray. In this video it shows the battery tray painted and installed in the van. In the video I also talk about all the various systems that are on board that van to make it run totally off grid, so it can stand in a field in the middle of nowhere and run with no electrical hookup, gas or water supply. And that's why I've built the van as I have. I also talk through all the certification and insurances needed to run a mobile catering van. So if you're interested in watching that, there's a link in the video description. Just click on that link and you can go and watch the video. I haven't put it on this channel because I realise that a lot of people that are just interested in fabrication aren't necessarily going to be interested in a mobile coffee van. Well, thanks very much for watching. Hope you got something out of that. What can I say about this welder, summing up? What about my old MIG welder? Does this weld any better than my old MIG welder? Well, no it doesn't. But this welds as well as my old welder. Did my old welder have any benefits over this? Well, if you were really finicky, this takes a 5 kilo reel of wire. My old welder took a 15. You can buy a 15 kilo reel for less than 5 kilos, but you have to do an awful lot of welding to get through 15 kilos, and I did on occasion have the wire going rusty and had to throw it away and buy a new reel because I hadn't got through it fast enough. And you can do an awful lot of welding with 5 kilos of wire. So what's this got over my old welder? Well, number one, look at the size of it. It's absolutely tiny, 180 amp, tiny. Hence the 5 kilo, reel, because you've got to have the case to put the big reel in. So small sacrifice, worth making, I believe, because I want to make a trolley to hold MIG welder, TIG welder, plasma cutter, and use no more space than my old MIG welder used to. Yes, it will be taller, but the footprint will be pretty much the same. And that's definitely something that I want to do. So yeah, size, definitely brilliant. Number one, probably the size. What did it have over my old welder? Well, consistency, because this is a brand new unit. It's got a lovely wire feed in there, which is really consistent. Pull the trigger back, it does the same thing every time. So the consistency is head and shoulders over my old welder, but like I say, my old welder was pretty worn out. I would have said it done a lot of work and probably haven't been maintained that well. But yeah, this is really consistent and welds as well, and it's a third of the size. What more can I say? Well, I can say more because this welder is one of the very few welders that I've used that's got a variable voltage or power knob, which is really, really useful actually when you're welding very, very thin materials. And I'll go into that more in my next video. So my next video is going to be about using this MIG weld, using any MIG welder. I've received dozens and dozens of emails, people with penetration issues on welding very, very thin metal and how to set things up. So I give it my best shot. I give it my best shot of what's actually going on with the welder, how it's working, and I think if you can grasp an understanding of what's actually going on and how the welder works, then yeah, I think you'll get better results. It's an observation of mine that when people are welding very thin materials, they tend to have the wire speed too fast. Not everybody, but people that are having problems do. It's just one of my observations. So what I'll do is in my next video, I'll take you through that. It'll probably be a bit long-winded, but I think for people that really, really want to know, it'll be one of those videos that you really want to watch. So that's going to be the next video. So I'm going to shut up and say bye for now. See you next time round. Bye.